no one was really rooting for me to kind of be any sort of success. Me being the creative one as well, there wasn't really that much expectation on me. I was so scared. I thought it was so much cash up front. I was really nervous and I didn't tell anyone, but I bought them in and I just started selling them. And then I realised actually I was making a margin on them.
But it's a very fine line for me. If it's someone I love or it's my family, I always feel like I'm very hesitant to tell them something until it's like 110%.
I told my cousin, his first reaction was like, what if you end up like the guy from Pursuit of Happiness? I knew it was a small amount to start off with. I wasn't going to go big or go home at that point. I don't think it needs to be all or nothing. I do think being an influencer is not easy. I'm not going to be an influencer. I've never really liked being considered that. I'm more than that. I'm a businesswoman. I just feel more confident in the decisions I make. So I don't need the validation from anyone anymore. And I knew I needed to change, so I made a change. If something doesn't work for you, you can make a change. I change things a lot, and I'm glad. Not everything needs to be massive. Not everything needs to be so overwhelmingly, like your goals don't need to be miles away. Like your goals can be achievable.
Nikki.
Hi.
Welcome to Millennial Mind.
Hello.
I'm so happy to have you here.
I am buzzing to be here.
It's so nice because I feel like I followed your page for ages. And even before you came, someone asked me, have you met her before? And I said no. But I feel like we've just got along so well.
I know.
We've had to stop our conversation to be like, no, let's talk about it in the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, you've created such an incredible brand and you have such a good online presence and such a supportive community. I want to go back to the beginning. So did you go to university?
Yes, I went to university. During school, I was always very creative.
Okay.
And I'm the only girl and the youngest in my family.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so I feel like me being the creative one as well, there wasn't really that much expectation on me. Whereas a lot of South Asian girls, they have their family putting a lot of pressure on them. I always had the opposite. So I feel as though no one was really rooting for me to kind of be any sort of success. I don't think in terms of money and like growth, anything like that. I just think the vibe was, oh, she's just doing her artwork. She's the creative one. She likes to dance. She likes to do this. So everyone just kind of left me to it, which is fine. And there was support there as well, but there was just a lack of expectation and things like that. So
did that work for you in your favour or against you?
I would like to say in my favour because I'm looking at where I'm at now.
Okay.
And I think a lot of, the reason why I started what I did was based on proving people wrong. I think there was an element of that.
Wow.
So, there's either like positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. I felt that actually at the time, now I look back anyway. But with uni, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to work for DreamWorks or Pixar and I wanted to do all of that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I was quite excited. I pitched the idea to my family. They were literally like, what the hell? What do you mean, computer animation? Where's this come from?
Okay.
And I ended up trying so hard to convince everyone that when I actually got to uni and I wasn't enjoying it, I felt like a failure. I was just like, I've let everyone down. Also, I can't see how this is going to be a career for me. It was very kind of, I don't know, the people were very introverted. It's more of like I don't know, it wasn't as, do you know what I mean?
So in a room with like 50 men looking down at their computer.
Yeah. And they'd like work through the night and then sleep all day. And it was an environment where I was like, that actually isn't me at all. I'm quite outgoing, quite confident. I like, presenting, stuff like that. And I thought, I might have picked the wrong thing here. But it taught me loads in terms, and I use a lot of those skills now in my business. So I'm so glad still that I did that. But it was a challenge because I knew in my first year, this wasn't for me.
Right.
And I literally I didn't even contemplate like not finishing the degree. I just carried on. Finished it. Tried my best. My heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I left uni and I did have like a moment where I felt very lost. I'd say about 6 months. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to do. I felt really down actually because I thought I'd let my family down a bit because they've always been supportive and like let me do my creative thing, and then it didn't quite work out. So I then got a job in London.
Okay.
It's like I was basically a project manager for a mobile app company, which was fun at the time. I got to work within a small business, still not really going down a certain path or anything, not sure where I would end up. But yeah, I did enjoy that, and but I still wasn't fulfilled at all, and that's when I started doing my bits on the side.
And tell me about that. What bits on the side were you doing?
So I don't know, I wasn't really good with spare time at that point. I wasn't really good at chilling. I think 'cause I used to do quite a lot. when I was at school. I used to go to school, then I used to go to dance practice, then I used to go to competitions, and I was always doing stuff in the evening, so I wasn't really good at chilling. Very different now. But I then just started kind of seeing if I can make any extra cash or like use my time productively in the evenings, and I started selling some unwanted clothes and jewellery on eBay and Depop. Remember Depop when it first came out?
I use Vinted now.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's meant to be good.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, good.
It's actually really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is not a Vinted ad, by the way. Should be though.
I focused on that for a little bit, just on the side, just make some extra cash. I could just spend on silly things. There was no like real intention behind it. But then when someone would place an order and I was packaging it, and then putting the little label on, I was like, oh, I felt something.
Okay.
And I wondered, I just enjoyed it. I did that for a while, and I ended up making like $2,000. Obviously not make, it was old clothes, I wasn't really making any profit. But it was kind of like, actually, there's some money in this if I can just market things online and sell them. And I was just doing this on the side. I didn't really tell anyone, just like something I was doing for myself. And then I thought, what can I buy in and then sell on? So this was back in 2014. So it's back in the day. This was when statement necklaces were like all the craze. And I wanted to buy some in and see if I could sell them on Depop. And I remember I only bought, my first order was like 20.
Okay.
And I was so scared. I thought it was so much cash up front. I was really nervous. And I didn't tell anyone, but I bought them in and I just started selling them. And then I realised actually I was making a margin on them. And then I had to start thinking, okay, right, if I'm selling them for this, then I'm going to be paying this much for the postage. I started working things out. And then I realised I had this little plan going on, and it all just like gradually turned into something. And then I realised I really enjoyed it. And I started thinking, I need a logo. I need more of a presence online. And then I started creating this website. But the best thing about it was something I did in private. Like I didn't tell anyone. So I was just doing my own little thing and having fun with it and experimenting. And there was no pressure financially because I still have my full-time job. So I was just having fun. And then it like gradually got more and more serious.
And why do you think that was the best bit about it, of it being in private?
I think because I didn't welcome in any unsure opinions. There was one I did welcome in. I've spoken about it before. But so I told my cousin, and his first reaction was like, what if you end up like the guy from Pursuit of Happiness? And when he just like literally is broke as anything because he's like bought all these bone density scanners and stuff.
So funny.
And I was like, I literally only bought in 20 necklaces. I was thinking, why has he said that? And it didn't really affect anything. I was set on this. Like they're already on their way. Like I was just going to see what was going on. And I knew it was a small amount to start off with. I wasn't going to go big or go home at that point. I don't think it needs to be all or nothing. Sometimes when you're starting a business and working out what's right for you. So I did have those kind of opinions circulating a little bit amongst my loved ones, which was even harder to swallow sometimes. It's different from strangers, but when it's people you love, you actually respect and care about, and they're looking out for you, you do think, actually, am I being silly? It was more of like a banter type comment, so I didn't take it too much to heart. But then I thought, I'll keep this to myself. And I had a little bit of negative reinforcement from my relationship at the time and stuff, kind of thinking, what are you doing? What was the point? But it actually drove me more. So I just carried on doing it because I was already working, as in I knew I could sell stuff online because I was already selling like my unwanted clothes and things like that. So I knew I'd be able to sell them. It wasn't like I'd done it randomly. So just kind of backed myself at that point and went for it. And I was building an audience on there and getting feedback. And that was just a nice circle of positive reinforcement that I was enjoying. So I just carried on and it expanded from there basically. Yeah.
It's a really fine line for me, though, if someone tells me something in a jokey way, because I'm a very sensitive person. So if someone gave me that comment and I was a little bit doubtful, and I think when you're starting a business with anyone and with anything you do, you always have some form of limiting beliefs and you always have a little bit of self-doubt when you're doing something new because it's uncomfortable. And if someone says something to you as a joke, sometimes it can play in your subconscious. It doesn't have to be in your conscious. You can be like, that didn't bother me. Yeah. But in the back of your head, that is reinforcing that doubt you already have. 100%. And that's really interesting to me that you just let that go and then didn't continue to tell anyone. I think that's the best way forward because same with you. When I had my podcast, I had 2 episodes recorded. I didn't release them. And then there was one person, and it was a guy at the time as well. And he was like, you always say you're going to do it and you don't do it. Right. And I was so angry that he said that I was like, right, I'm starting. And we weren't together anyway when I started my podcast. Yeah. But it was such a good thing for me to do that. But it is a fine line, because someone could say it to you and you could just loathe and be really sad.
Yeah.
But then someone else could say it to you and you want to kind of get your revenge. So you're like, I'm going to prove you wrong. But it's a very fine line for me. If it's someone I love or it's my family, I always feel like I'm very hesitant to tell them something until it's like 110%.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if I tell them there's an opportunity there or there's a scope and then it doesn't go through, I feel like I've let them down. Even though they haven't said that to me, I feel like, oh, I hyped you up for this thing that was going to happen.
Yeah.
It didn't go through. So I just now never say anything until it's 110%.
Yeah. I actually don't think you should. There's a saying that if you, say for example, if you're going to drop loads of pounds, you go to the gym, if you say it to someone and they're like, oh, that's really good, you've already got that satisfaction from them. So you actually don't follow through sometimes. It's like the psychology of it. So if you actually constantly verbalise everything you're about to do rather than announce it like when it's done, then part of you might not follow through because you've already got that praise.
That's so true.
That's something I read in a book like back in the day, and I actually really started to think about it. And then I thought as well, the comments, any negative sort of comments sting me more if I'm not sure myself. And when I'm building something, I'm never going to be sure until it's there, until it's ready. Therefore, I'm not ready or equipped to handle any comments until it's there.
So true.
So I keep things to myself now. It's hard though, because it makes it even more nerve-wracking when it comes to announcing something, because you've built up all of this pressure and energy in yourself and you're excited and you're proud, and if you don't get that response back, it will knock you down. We feel like it might knock you down even more. But honestly, if you're getting knocked all the way along, you'll take longer to get where you want to be. So I just think work, and you're doing it for yourself anyway. And I've also said it before as well, that like I do think business ideas and things like that are like a baby's name, in that expecting parents don't share what they're going to call their children, because ultimately it's no one's business and they don't want any unwanted opinions. They don't want to see anyone's reaction on their face when they say it. They keep it to themselves, or a lot of them do. And I think, why should anything you're doing for yourself be any different? Just, it's yours. You don't need other people's opinions. They shouldn't be able to affect them. Even like someone raising an eyebrow can affect how you feel about something.
So true. Microaggressions in any 100%. Form, because you don't know. I think also people are very sensitive in different ways. So I'm very expressive. So if I'm like, okay, then people would be like, she doesn't like it, because I normally be like, oh my God, amazing. Whilst for other people that wouldn't necessarily be there. So it depends on who you're talking to as well. You can assume something, or if I'm just having a bad day and I'm like, oh, that's really good, and I'm not like, oh my God, that's amazing, then you could think, oh no, Shivani doesn't like it now, and that's made me feel awful, and why wasn't her reaction like this? And people are all different as well. So that kind of expectation is really difficult, because you want someone to jump for joy when you're telling them a brand new idea, right? You want them to be like, oh, that's insane, I've never heard that before, that's so cool. But some people will just be like, good for you. And that's exactly how I felt with my podcast as well. In the beginning, some people would be like, oh, that's cool. And I'd be like, okay,
that's a little thing for you to do.
Like,
small.
Exactly. Oh, that's a nice little hobby.
Yeah,
I know.
I've been there. Oh, honestly, but yeah.
So then you started doing this small business in terms of you were selling other people's jewelry.
Well, I was buying things in from suppliers and selling them on. I wasn't doing anything myself yet. So I just realised there was potential in that. And then I just started growing it. And it was, honestly, I used to feel such a thrill when I'd be at work. I'd look at my phone, I'd see a couple of orders come through, and I'm like, oh, just
still on Depop?
Yeah, Depop,
or on your website?
And then I gradually moved to my website. So this was a couple of months after that.
And what was your website called?
It was Nikita by-niki. It's still the same.
That was the start.
Yeah. So I've recently rebranded, literally very recently, and it's all been really exciting. But I think I've been like kind of forced to look back at everything from the beginning recently, and it's nice. I've still got the same name. And I don't even know why I came up with it. And even my brothers at the time, so I've got two older brothers, so I'm used to being like people picking at me and like, taking the mick and like straightening me up, and I kind of need it. I like it. So otherwise I can go off with the fairies. I've got that kind of mind.
So I grew up with my cousins, and my older cousin, he always mocks me. Yeah. And he called me one day and he mocked me, and I was like, you've really upset me. And he was like, you know what? You need to toughen up. And he was like, I'm saying it to you because if you can't handle me, you're not going to be able to handle this lifestyle. Yeah. And I was like, that's so true. And like now when he mocks me, I'm just like, oh, thank God he does. Because then if someone leaves me a hateful comment or someone's trolling me, I'm just like, whatever.
100%. I mean? Completely agree. I am glad that I've had that. I feel like it's also helped me exercise some boundaries before, because I'm kind of used to, they're always testing the boundaries, so then I can set them a bit easier with my brothers. And therefore I kind of know, okay, actually I don't like it when people do this, I don't like when people say that, but I do find it funny if we talk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I take a joke, but I also know where my boundaries are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got my 2 older brothers to thank for that. Yeah, I used to feel like a bit of a thrill when I'd see the orders come through when I was working at my full-time job. And I actually loved my full-time job, which is probably a narrative you don't really hear. People are like, oh, I hated my boss, I needed to do something for myself. Loved my boss, loved my job. I just, don't know, I wanted a little bit more. And I wanted, I needed some self-worth, if I'm honest. Like at that point, I still felt I'd let people down. I still was in a toxic relationship where I was made to feel like I wasn't good enough. And that this was for me, and it was filling me with confidence. So I kind of knew I needed to put more energy into it. So I was doing both for ages, and it didn't feel like I had 2 jobs for ages because I was enjoying it, and it was for me, and it wasn't a hobby, and it wasn't really centered around money. So it didn't feel like I was like,
there's no pressure.
Yeah, I wasn't burnt out or anything. I was just enjoying it. So I would obviously work during the week full time, and then in the evenings and weekends, with the help of my mum, we used to like package all my orders and everything, make sure they got out. So I was juggling a couple of things, but I do remember not feeling overwhelmed.
Okay.
Which is interesting because I feel that quite easily now.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Now I'm 30, everything overwhelms me. But back then I was just enjoying it because it was my little hobby.
Okay.
Yeah, some people go and do this and that, but that was my little thing that I was doing, and it filled me with confidence. And then I created the website,
right,
which was so much fun for me because I actually learned quite a lot of that at uni. The degree which I thought was useless actually ended up being very helpful in that.
Right.
So I created my first website, had it all set up, and then I remember my little launch day. Oh my God, the pictures of the necklaces were so funny. They were like, I had this fluffy cushion, and I just put the necklaces on a fluffy cushion, took a photo on my first generation iPhone.
Yeah.
Honestly. But it did still look like a little shop. And I think I've always wanted that. I loved playing shops when I was younger.
Okay.
Always kind of imagined it for me, but then, I was kind of forced to pick a degree. So then went down that route. It just felt really nice. And seeing my name in a logo format on the website was just really cool.
Yeah.
And then orders actually started coming in, and I was like, I made like £800 in like half an hour, and I thought, what the actual hell? Obviously that's just turnover, it's not and I just felt really powerful. I was like, oh my God, people actually trust me and are buying my stuff.
But were you growing your influencer platform at this time, like your
Yes.
Instagram platform?
Yeah.
Right. So you were doing both in tandem.
Yeah, so another funny thing about that was I had, back in the day, 2015 we're talking, 2014, maybe even before that, I had around 10,000 followers.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, back then it was quite a lot. And I didn't really know why I was getting followers or what was going on.
Well, you're incredibly beautiful. So maybe that's the reason.
I think it was just like, I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing outfits. I was going out with my mates quite a lot then. That was they were my clubbing days.
Okay,
fine. It was the outfits. It was all that. And I didn't really feel very good about it, but I thought, it's quite nice to get the odd compliment here and there. And then it was fun posting with the girls and stuff. And we used to take pictures together. And it was, that was the life back then, apparently.
Yeah.
But when I got my full-time job, I felt really embarrassed of it. As in when my co-workers started following me on there, I was like, oh my God, they're going to see me and they're going to take me seriously at work. And I actually felt a bit silly because it didn't have a purpose. It was just me posing around. I deleted the whole account, like literally went to zero. I didn't even deactivate it. It was deleted. Like I removed it. All my friends were like, what have you done? Why have you done that? And this was probably a couple of months before I set up my website.
Oh
so I'd lost
gosh.
The following I'd built, which would have bought from me, just got rid of it because I just felt a bit silly for a while. So then I had to build all that up again from scratch. But at least I was doing it with more of a purpose this time. And the people that really did, trust me and want to buy with me and stuff like that, they found me again. And I basically just thought, you know what, this is weird. All these comments from guys and stuff, they were weird. I'm going to remove this and I'll start again. And it worked a lot better. Obviously, at the time, I was like, why did I do that?
Of course. Yeah. What's interesting in that, though, is obviously if you're starting a company and you're doing it for yourself, naturally people would be like, let me use those 10,000 followers and see how many of them convert. But what's interesting, you just said, was I felt weird. I felt uncomfortable, which meant that it didn't align to you. And I talk about this all the time, is that it's so easy to jump on a trend. It's so easy as a girl as well to be like, I'm just going to post these kind of photos that don't align with me because I know it's going to get more followers.
Yeah.
And I think our generation is quite sad because everyone's just trying to get more followers. Yeah. Everyone's obsessed with going viral. Every single clip on TikTok is like, I'm going to show you how you can get viral within 3 minutes. You know, and on Instagram, it's like, I'm a social media manager and this is how I'm going to get you 10 million followers. And we're obsessed with it. And often when you become obsessed with the numbers, you can forget your purpose. Because if your goal is to reach more numbers, then it's very hard to stay authentic. But the number one thing that will get you the numbers is if you are authentic.
Yeah,
so it's like a bit of a paradox. But it's interesting that you recognised that so early on and went with your heart.
Yeah, I'm surprised I did. I do think I didn't think about it as deeply as that at the time, because back then it was like, whoa, you got 10,000 followers, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Whereas actually I just felt, I did feel a bit silly at work. I don't know what it was. I just wanted to be a professional. I really did. I was stepping into the world of like, you know, small businesses in London, and I wanted to work my way up. I didn't know where I was going to go, or I didn't think the following would have any sort of value.
Right.
So I did delete the account well before I'd thought of doing the shop. So then I did think, oh, that's a shame. But
Naturally.
also it's fine. And I built it again, and it you know, it didn't set me back too far. I didn't let it. I just carried on. And but it was just a funny story. Like I can't believe I did it. My friends were literally like, what have you done?
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, it's all good. At least I'd rather have the right people. And I'm glad
Definitely.
that I look back on that. I think I'm glad I recognised that then as well.
I want to talk about you being an influencer because it is a role that causes a lot of controversy, I think. A lot of people, I don't know if you've seen these clips where people are saying, oh, it's not hard to be an influencer. Some people are saying it is. It's interesting because I think to say something is harder than something else is to compare it.
Yeah.
And you can't compare an influencing job or a job on social media or anything in like the creative space to an office job. You just can't. It's just, they're two different worlds. But people always love to say how easy it is and how it is so fun and it's always so amazing and you get all this free stuff and you get invited to all these cool places. What are some of the best moments and worst moments for you?
I think with the influencing side of things, because I'd had my business online from 2015, I always was doing both at the same time. So I kind of had an interesting outlook in that I understood what it was like to be a brand approaching influencers and then also being an influencer helping a brand. So it's kind of in the middle. And that helped me know my worth a little bit more as well. Because if brands were approaching me, I think, okay, I should be charging this much, or I should, you know, I kind of had a bit more of an understanding of how it worked, which was good. But also I felt myself spreading myself very thin. And I was just saying yes to stuff. I feel like I was spending a lot of my early 20s just saying yes to things because, oh my God, you know, that's cash or that's a free item. And I'll be honest with you, the novelty did wear off quite quickly. The events, wonderful, great. But you know what? I don't want to go to them anymore. I realised that a little while ago. We even talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
You know, it's
you have to pick and choose.
Yeah, you need to find a niche, otherwise you're going to be spreading yourself thin and not knowing who you are and why you're there.
Yeah,
and why you're getting this weird stuff in the post. It's a funny one. Sometimes I just turn up at my work and my desk there'll be so many packages. Obviously that's an amazing thing, and I'm thinking, oh, this is cool, and I'd still even be like, wow, I can't believe this has been sent to me. But then I'm like, what am I going to do with that, or why have they sent me this? It's just because I said yes to too much stuff, and then I just then nothing's free, right? So
nothing is free.
Yeah, nothing is free. So then I'm like, well, now I've got about another 10 things on my to-do list, because I'm not going to just receive this without doing anything. Like I want to help people as well, because I know what it's like to be a small business. So it was the case of I wanted to help small businesses. I wanted to network, because obviously that's important. I also found it hard to say no to opportunities to do with like money and things like that, because I didn't want to take too much money out of the business at the time when it was growing. So then it could be like my actual pocket money I could spend on things I enjoy. So I tried a few different things, and some partnerships have been amazing. And what really suits me is things for the house, because I've got a house page now, and that's great. Like I genuinely, if I were to say yes to a partnership there, I would actually be using it and enjoying it, and that makes more sense. But I was just saying yes before to lots of different things, and I've only literally this year decided I'm going to just seize all partnerships there, because I'm not going to be an influencer. I've never really liked being considered that. I'm more than that. I'm a businesswoman.
Exactly.
And it's not something I've introduced recently. That's something I've been putting out there for the best part of a decade. Like,
it's interesting you say nothing is free, because I think a lot of people see the stuff that people get online and just think, oh, you're so lucky. And it's like, yeah, this stuff is amazing, but it's not going to pay my bills at the end of the day. No. And also the expectation of people to the expectation people put on you to make content out of the gifted items they sent you is crazy. So just for people who don't know, obviously gifted is when you're given something and you post it on your page, right?
Yeah.
An ad is when you're given something as a product, you review it and you do like a reel or like a post about it to share.
That, right?
And you could be paid for that. And then there's the difference between those two is significant because as a gifting, you don't have an obligation. If someone wants to gift you something, you shouldn't be obliged. And I think the people who gift me stuff and never say to me, you never have to post only if you like it, I'll go the extra mile, because generally I only ever say yes. I don't really have an office, so things are sent to my house. So I rarely give my address out, but things are only sent to me if I approve them. And I just say no now if I'm not going to use it, because otherwise my room is just filled with useless things.
Clutter as well.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what it is. It's something to do with my mind, but I really don't do well with it, and I'm always decluttering. That's part of the reason why I started selling all my stuff in the first place back in the day. I can't have stuff I don't use in my home. It just looks at me and it makes me feel like it's wasting space, and I think I'm a bit compulsive like that. I'm like in my home, I'm into my cleaning, tidying, and then I was like, this is doubly as annoying, because it's like I feel bad that I've got this product now. Now I've got to do all these things for them, but I shouldn't have accepted it in the first place.
And then
I
you don't do it with your whole heart.
Yeah, I realised that soon after, and I even sent some things back actually.
Really?
I was like, actually, I don't think I can do this justice for you. I'm so sorry. I'm going to send it back to you.
I've done
just
that
saying
before,
no.
and I didn't like the product.
Yeah. Sometimes it's important to not sell yourself short, because at the end of the day, you're trying to build trust with an audience as well. 100%. And where I'm selling actual products, I have to be very careful.
Of course. And if you don't like a product, you shouldn't have to post it.
Yeah.
Now, free work is something I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Because free work, I think, as an influencer, like we've just said, you always do.
Yep.
And often I think you're asked to do certain things that don't align with you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that in your 20s?
Oh, 100%. I was just doing everything. It's because I didn't know what, I don't know, still working out who I was. I was still battling with some friendships, some relationships, just figuring out loads of different things. And then I was like, okay, career-wise, where do I want to go? What if I say no to that and then I missed meeting this person? You know, you kind of, around then, the whole like networking narrative was quite strong.
It is
now. It's not what you know, it's who you know and all this. So I was constantly putting myself out there socially, which was great to some extent. But other times I'd come back feeling worse from certain events and stuff. And it set me back a couple of steps actually, rather than progressing forward.
And I think there's a narrative of, if you don't do this certain thing, you'll never get the opportunity again, or you won't get this exposure. And now this kind of exposure debate always frustrates me, because people will love to, I think a lot of people think of it as, you know, it's great exposure for you, but that's not the field you want to go in.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of battle that and learn how to say no?
It's definitely something I started doing more in my late 20s.
Okay.
But in terms of knowing, I think it took me a while to realise as well, actually, I've built this audience and people are wanting to get their products and things in front of that audience. Therefore, I do need to like protect that a little bit and understand my worth and things like that. And I was used to really undercharge for stuff, to the point where one of my friends found out and she was like, Nick, what are you doing? And
but people don't talk about it. This is the problem.
Yeah, and I would even say, for example, it was a small amount of money. It's still like a lot of money to me.
It's same.
Yeah.
Like, this is the problem. I think that when you leave your corporate job and when you're doing something that you love, like doing a reel or something in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, I am like killing it. I'm making so much money. Like, wow, I can't believe I'm charging that. Because you think about it per hour, right? Or like per half an hour.
Yeah.
I went to an event recently and I was discussing how much I charge. And the reason why I did that is, if I came up to you and said, Nikki, how much you charge for a reel? You'd be like, oh my God, that's just a bit intense. But I went into the conversation being really open with that person to be like, I'm not sure if I'm charging the right amount. This is how much I charge. What do you think? And what that did was allow that person to open up and tell me how much they charged.
Okay.
And then they were like, you are charging way less than you should be. And I was like, why does no one talk about this? And it's really difficult amongst influencers and creatives, because a lot of the time you're invited to a lot of events where you're kind of battling for the same sponsorships or the same partnerships or the same ads or whatever. But I believe that there is room for absolutely everybody. And people who tell me like, it doesn't work like that, it's too competitive, there's no room for any of us, I'm like, I don't really want to ever talk to you again.
Yeah.
Because what you're trying to say is like, there is one person for one thing and that's it, and you're not willing to share ideas, you're not willing to collaborate, you're not willing to work with one another. And not everyone has to share everything. That's also a different thing. If I don't have to share everything I'm doing and I have to tell you all my contacts, no one has to do that. But if someone's coming to you and saying, hey, I'm charging this much, what do you think? I think it's so powerful to give them your true honest opinion. Because at the end of the day, at the end of that kind of day, we had like 5 or 6 people. We were all sharing how much we earn. We all were sharing different contacts in the industry. And now all of us are like, we're so thankful we met because we were able to realize that we were undercharging. And in this industry, no one tells you. And how is anyone going to tell you, if I'm honest? If someone came up to me and said, Shivani, how much do you earn per reel? I don't really want to say. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if you came up to me and said, hey, I'm earning this much, what do you think? It's totally different.
100%. I think as well where I was approaching influencers myself at the time as a brand, I had a bit more of an understanding as to what people were charging. So but then I still undercharged quite a bit. But to be honest, I'm glad that's kind of, I learned a lot, obviously, and I was able to support a lot of people, which is great. And I was able to try lots of products and things like that. But really, I think I'd say about 3 years ago, I was like the beauty stuff. Yeah. As much as I love it, that's not my content. It doesn't feel right amongst everything else I'm trying to do. So I let go of a lot of things there, even though I do really love it.
Yeah.
It's part of me, obviously, but I just think I had my fingers in too many pies. But in terms of the influencing side of things, I do think being an influencer is not easy. I've had experience in it, and it comes with so much judgment, especially now. And I just sort of think anyone that's doing that has to have thick skin. They have to know their worth. They have to make sure they are constantly choosing the right things for themselves. They have to filter everything they say. It's a lot. I was saying this to a friend the other day, that if I have a daughter or a son or whatever, I would not want them in that space.
Really?
No. I would love that if they had their own business. That'd be amazing. But in terms of, just influencing, I don't know if it's the right thing.
It is really difficult sometimes. Look, I think what we're not trying to say is it's the worst job in the world. It's great. We both do it. It's lovely. But there are downsides to it, which I think people don't see. And one of the things I've been struggling with recently is the amount of messages I get for people to be like, can you share this? Can you talk about this? And especially with political things, especially with things that are going on in the world. Yeah. As an influencer, I am not educated enough to tell you about those things. There are certain things that I will research in detail and I will look into, and then I will speak about them. I will do my best to share the resources, but I cannot be posting about something every single day that is going on in the world, because otherwise my feed would literally be the news, and I am not the news. Okay. And people honestly recently have been messaging me like horrible messages to be like, why are you not speaking about this? You think you're a feminist and you're not speaking about this. And it's like, I can't speak about every single issue. I can repost things where people can get more information. I can repost the accounts who are specialists in that field, but I cannot repost something about an issue that is close to however many people's hearts every single day, because every single day there is something crazy that is going on. And as much as, and I'm really sympathetic to those things. And I do my own part in donating to certain charities. I don't need to advertise that on my Instagram. But when people are like, can you reshare this? Can you reshare this?
Because it's, interests them.
Exactly.
What they're, passionate about. But yeah, I completely agree. And actually that whole crusade of when that began, everyone was like going after influencers for not sharing things in the media. I saw so many people go in their shell. Like, actually what that did was do the opposite of what they wanted. I think it made people feel even more self-conscious and even more worried, because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I think if you are in that space, you kind of need to claim what your thing is and then just stick to that. Because if you dabble in a bit of that, then you're then held to it for everything else. Exactly. And you just need to have a niche. And I think that's quite a big thing of what I was trying to do recently, is really home in on something that I'm passionate about, that I know I'll be able to post about consistently and confidently. It suits me. Whereas if I'm trying to wear all these hats and be a news reporter, and I'm not a correspondent, I don't know these things. Literally. I'm covering different space. I'm hopefully covering the Asian women in business space. That's my little area. And hopefully people that follow my page can see that. But there are people out there that are amazing at sharing these sorts of news stories, and they look into it properly and they educate people properly, and follow them for that. But not everyone can do everything. And actually, the more you were pushing people, I saw loads of my friends deleted their accounts. Honestly, it was crazy. It was a shame, because it had the opposite effect to what people actually thought it would.
And you can't check everything to see if it's right. Like, I have reposted something about an important issue and people are like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And I've reposted like BBC News or something, and people have been like, why did you share that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared now to post anything. And then the other thing is like, you don't want to be posting things and then people attack you because then they think the opposite way.
Yeah. Do you know what? I stay well away from anything political, actually. I have my own views, but generally, I think during the pandemic, quite a lot of us stopped listening to the news. I did. I still don't. I don't listen to the news. I used to every morning make my bed. Alexa, please, news, update me. I don't want to know. I know it's bad. If it's something that I need to know, I will go out my way and I will research, and I will also see it on my feeds and things like that.
Exactly.
But I have to, for my mental sanity, kind of keep myself away from all the bad stuff that's going on. There are so many horrible things happening all the time, and I can't absorb that as well as processing all these other things I'm trying to do. And so it's a personal choice for me that I don't keep too updated with the news. Therefore, I'm not the right person to share that.
Of course.
So I hope just by kind of keeping that where it is, and I hope people don't keep expecting that from me, especially now I'm like tailored my content more towards business. I mean, I'm not a correspondent, sorry.
Yeah, none of us are. Talking about mental health, I want to talk to you about my sponsor, Heights.
Nice.
How aesthetic is this bottle?
Very nice.
It's
good.
Honestly really made such a big difference in my life. I just take 2 of these in the morning.
Yeah.
It has over 20 minerals, vitamins and antioxidants, and I just have it with some water. The best thing about them, they're brain care supplements, and I feel like we don't look after our brains enough. And often I think we're given so many different supplements for so many different things. This has kind of all of it in one, and it has omega-3, and I'm vegetarian, so for me these are vegan, so it's like even better because I've never been able to have like a fishy omega-3 in my life before, because I'm always like, is it controversial that I'm vegetarian but then I'm having omega-3? There's always that debate. Well, here's a solution for anyone who's vegan out there. But yeah, no, I'd love for you to try them because they've really helped me. I feel like they could help a lot with you.
Yeah, they look good, and I like the fact that the capsules aren't too big, because that actually freaks me out sometimes with omega-3s, so they look really good.
Yeah,
I've
no.
had them before as well.
Have you? Yeah, no, they're really great, and I just feel like they're just such a nice part of my routine now, because with me I feel like once something's in my routine I become obsessed with it. It's like, have these, drink my dirty in the morning, use my performance plan, and then I feel like, wow, self-care done for the day. So talking about your rebrand, so you obviously started Nikita by-niki, you grew and scaled that business. Now you've just done a whole rebrand and it's called Nikita.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Why did you choose to do that?
Oh, I'm quite excited to talk about it, actually.
Okay.
I started this when I was 23. So when I don't know what it was. I think it was pretty much quite a lot of last year. I was looking at the website and everything, and I was working, I was growing it. I was working on Amazon quite a lot behind the scenes, and I just wasn't feeling passionate about the website, the products. I really wasn't. And then I've got a team and I've got to motivate them every day, and something was lacking a little bit, and I was wondering, why am I not springing out of bed like I used to? And I knew it's because I didn't identify with the branding anymore, because I'm not a girly swirly person like I was when I was 23. I figured myself out now. I'm a 30-year-old woman. I know who I am. I know the kind of products I want to produce, but I knew it needed a complete change. And that was scary, but also very, very exciting. And the idea just came to me, and I literally was like, I was to my amazing marketing manager, Georgia, I was like, Georgia, we need to do a rebrand. She was like, what do you mean? I was like, literally, I think we need to like change everything, because it was like nearly there.
Yeah.
There was elements that I was really proud of with the business, but they were kind of, it just missed that overall like brand message. And I honestly, like when I was working on it, because I love doing web design anyway, and I think when you run a business, you kind of have to do so many little things. You put out small fires every day. But with this, I could go to work and I could get my teeth into something.
Right.
And I loved it. I would just work on the website for like 3 days. I didn't have to like worry about too much else.
Yeah.
Kind of just put my head down and focused. And I felt the like fire in my belly I did when I first started when I was 23. And I haven't felt that in 7 years.
Yeah.
So, it felt really right. Therefore, didn't tell anyone. Thought, keep that to myself. This one's working for me. I'm not going to tell anyone. Obviously told my partner and the girls at work and a few people. Actually didn't even tell my mum and dad.
Really?
Yeah. They wouldn't get it unless they saw it. And it wasn't ready to show yet. So I didn't share. But
it's interesting because I think our parents, they're from a completely different generation in terms of they don't understand this whole commerce, website, digital life. Like my mum and dad still don't get it. They're like, why are brands sending you this stuff? Like what benefit is it to them? And I'm like, okay, my mum's slowly getting it. It's quite cute. We went for dinner the other day and we went to the restaurant. They were so nice to us, and we left. And my dad was like, I just don't get it. Like, why have they just given us this whole meal for free? My mum was like, Shivani has 70,000 followers. And my dad was like, what? And I was just laughing so much because it was like them trying to communicate to each other what on earth I do.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, okay, I think I get it. It's like a form of advertising. Like if they put an ad out because you put it on your story. And I was like, yes, Dad, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But for them, I think, like when I told them I was quitting my job, they were like, what on earth are you going to do? Because for them, they don't understand that there's so much potential through social media and through this digital world to make so much money. And doing a rebrand of some sort is so tough because you never know how it's going to land.
Yeah.
So I get that decision to kind of keep it quiet.
Yeah.
But what I think is really nice is at the start of this podcast, you were talking to me about having a toxic boyfriend and you didn't tell him the idea, or you told him the idea and he wasn't supportive. And now you just recently got married.
Yeah.
And you told your husband.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's incredibly supportive because...
100%. Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't have married him otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that helps, but it still wouldn't affect my decision, if I'm honest. Even if he if he was like, don't think you should do it, I would have still done it. Because
how do you think you've changed then from when you were younger to now?
I have created a brand. I've sold enough. I've received enough positive feedback. I back myself now. Didn't have any of that before.
Wow.
So with this new branding, I bounced off the girls at work, obviously, but it was, I don't know what it is. All through my 20s, I used to think I was a really indecisive person. I used to literally, if I was to describe myself in 3 words, indecisive would have been one of them. And now, maybe since I turned 28, I think it was quite pivotal. I know exactly what I want. And I'm so surprised. I never saw that for myself. I painted my living room purple. Dark purple, like, never saw that come in. I then planned our weddings and made all of the decisions there, and I obviously make all the decision with the rebrand and everything like that. And I was thinking, you know what, I'm actually getting a lot better at decision making, and I haven't really sat and regretted anything. There's a couple of things maybe that I want to change eventually or whatever, but I just feel more confident in the decisions I make, so I don't need the validation from anyone anymore.
And how do you think you got there?
Age. Honestly, I'm loving being 30 already.
Really?
Yeah, this year's been the best year of my life.
Okay.
The toughest, but the best. And I was very, very anxious about turning 30.
Yeah, this is me right now. I'm literally like, I don't want to be 30. That's old in my head.
I mean,
I'm meant to have kids. I'm meant to be married. I'm meant to have my house.
Yeah.
I don't have any of those things.
You are smashing it. You've got an amazing podcast. I can tell you've got such self-confidence, self-awareness. Like, that is what you want at 30. It's not about the physical things. It's not about... You know, if you've got your house, you've got your kids. And I don't have kids. I thought I'd have them at 26.
Yeah.
Who knows, whatever. But it's more about knowing yourself. That's the aim. If you can aim right by 30, I'd like to be able to make a decision and not regret it. That's why I got some tattoos. I was going to get a tattoo. I'm not going to regret it. I'm 30 years old now. I'm not going to let myself regret it.
Yeah.
Whatever I made any decision I make at this age is one that, you know, I'll back myself.
I think so many of us set expectations for ourselves. And when I was younger, I used to say all these things, you know, get married at this age, have a house by this age. And this year, I would say, has been the first year where I am so confident in terms of being who I am. It's the first year, I think, of my life. And I think there's loads of things that have contributed to that. But I also think the podcast has helped me tremendously because this was an outlet for me to express who I really am and express how I really feel about things. And people are supporting it. Whilst my whole life, everyone's tried to like negate that. Yeah. And so whenever I say things like, don't ask me when I get married, everyone's like, don't be so difficult. You're going to be left on the shelf. Da, 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 da. On Instagram, everyone's like, yes, you know, don't ask me when I'm getting married. Don't ask me when I'm having kids.
Everyone thinks it, but, you know, it's nice when someone you follow or something actually says it with conviction. Because you just don't see it enough brown women doing it because they're just told to be quiet or like that's how we're brought up, you know, be helpful, be, you know, just be what all the aunties want you to be, essentially. Be
subservient.
Like, 100%. And, you know, be successful, but don't
brag.
It.
Yeah. Don't tell anyone too much. That's always I get told. Like, don't tell anyone anything.
Be successful, but also be a real family person as well. Do everything for everyone else. I don't know. I just think I've always kind of felt like that. And luckily, I think I'm lucky that my family aren't like that. I'm they are very chilled out, actually. Some old school. I just have learned to lower my expectations with certain people. Even people I'm very close to now.
Yes.
Learned a lot in my 20s. I've had loads of like, when relationships end, friendships, partners, everything, like, it's hard.
It is.
And I know I had a part to play in a lot of it.
Same.
But now, I think where I am 30, I don't think it's too much to do with that particular milestone of like age, but I just think, just all those experiences have led me to just back myself more.
100%.
So that's why when I did the rebrand, or like decided to do the rebrand, like, honestly, it was like when I was working out, smoke was coming out my fingers. Like, no one was going to tell me anything. Like, it was great. And then everyone started getting on board because they could see my energy. So
and I think you're just sure of yourself. And when you're sure of yourself, you're just proud of yourself no matter what. And, going back to kind of other people telling you what to do, I heard a quote the other day, and it honestly makes me feel so empowered every time I say it, because it said, if someone says you're too much, tell them to go be less somewhere else.
Yeah. 100%.
And it just made me feel so amazing, because it's like when someone tells me I'm too much, that's okay. You go be less somewhere else. And it made me feel so empowered, because for so long everyone always be like, you're too this and you're too that. Well, you go and be less.
Yeah.
No problem. And I'm not going to let you affect me. And, I have these crystals from Soul Space, and the owner, Sonali, she always says to me, when I'm doing my podcast, when I meet other people, because I am sensitive, she's like, just imagine there's a bubble around you and no one can touch you. And she's like, just pretend that these bracelets are like a protector. And so for me now, there's always going to be people that are negative in your life, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, whether that's family, whether that's your friends, whether that's family friends, whether that's a business person or someone at work, whoever it is. You're always going to have someone, unfortunately, who you're not going to get along with. And we can't just cut everyone out of our lives, but to always remember that they can't touch you, that they can't affect your peace,
100%.
and only you can control your happiness. It just empowers you in every way.
That's when you're
and let them be who they want to be. At the end of the day, I always feel good triumphs evil, and like I just really believe in like God and the universe, and I just believe in karma. And I feel like if you're mean, it's just gonna come back to you, not from me, never from me, but from someone else.
100%.
So let it. Like, it's fine.
Do you feel like you've become more spiritual as you've got a little older as well? Yeah, I didn't see that coming actually myself.
I've always been quite spiritual though, since I've been a kid, but I've always been so drowned by other people's opinions. And for some reason, that quote about like being too much and being too like going, being less, it just really made me feel so empowered. I don't know what it was about that quote. And generally when I do, because I go to the temple quite a lot, and sometimes when I'm feeling really low, I speak to some friends there that are monks, and they always tell me, God will always reward you when you do good things. Always. And it may not come from that person, but at the end of the day, you just have to believe that everything is rigged in your favor. And I learned that from a podcast last week from Lauren. And she said, I always believe in this mantra that whatever is happening in the world, it's rigged in my favor.
Yeah.
And I was like, how amazing
You carry
is that?
yourself like that as well. You attract so much more. I do believe that. I actually do. And I've felt it the last couple of years, the way I've pivoted my energy. If I were to focus on the negative stuff and like respond to things a lot more, I would invite so much more of it in. But I believe I carry a positive energy, and people see it online and they respond well to it, because that is infectious.
It is.
And as long as I know that about myself, I won't let it get to me.
Exactly.
I do think there are a few different types of negative comments. I think there's ones that can be helpful. I think there's
constructive.
Yeah, constructive criticism.
Sure.
Maybe not said in the nicest way, but they can actually improve things.
Yes.
There's so many things that I've improved based on some like negative reviews from customers, things like that. So some things I believe you can take on the chin and improve on. There are other ones that are meant from, say, loved ones, like my cousin, looking out for me.
Yeah.
With love.
Just don't know how to communicate it in the best way. Yeah.
But it's with love, and also they're just trying to care for you. So it's worth taking a few things like that on board. And then there are ones that are from a jealous place.
Yes.
A place where they don't feel they're measuring up, and their insecurities are then projected onto you. But it's good to be able to differentiate between the three, because then you can basically ensure you don't assign any energy to that last one, because it's not your responsibility to deal with other people's
insecurity.
It's not. It can't be. How can it be?
But jealousy is so difficult, because when someone is jealous of you, and I often think that if you hear someone saying, oh, that person's just jealous of me, people think you're arrogant, or people think there's something wrong. But you just know. And I always say this, I've said this in all of my podcasts, energy doesn't lie. And I'm quite intuitive. I always have been from a young age. And I know when someone doesn't like me. But if someone is jealous of you, what can you do?
I don't know. I think.
How do you handle it?
Do you mean from people I know or like strangers?
From strangers, I think we don't really care, right? You're just like, you be jealous, go away.
Fair.
But when it's people you know and you believe that they're jealous of you and they're not happy for you, how do you cope with them?
Gradually, I don't know, just spend less time with them.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's sad, but
it is sad.
It does. It's actually sad because before that, I didn't know anything. I didn't think that would ever be the case. But it's something that maybe not everyone can help that feeling as well. It's really human to compare and to, I don't know. It's a shame sometimes because when you're comfortable with yourself, you don't ever feel that way about other people.
Never.
Like, oh, go on, well done.
Of course.
That's how I feel because I put so much work into myself lately. I never used to. I used to get jealous before. Used to get when I was 25, 23. Used to say, why haven't I got that one? I did a bit of work. And now I can actually root people on properly.
Exactly. Whenever you feel jealous or envious, you can turn that into motivation.
100%.
Like if you're jealous of someone, that's great. Recognize that feeling. Say, I am jealous of that person. How can I actually achieve something similar?
Yeah.
If someone has moved into a house and you want to do that, then realize, okay, I'm jealous because I want my own house. Okay, if I want my own house, this is my plan. And I'm going to be happy for that person because whether I'm jealous or not, whether I make a horrible comment or not, it's never going to take your house away.
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting part with people is that, unfortunately, when talking about your comments before, if someone tells me a negative thing about myself or if they're bitching about me and I hear it from someone else, at that moment I shut off from that person because I'm like, if you don't tell me, that means that you weren't telling me in a constructive way, which means there's a difference between being bitchy or there's a difference between telling someone negative and helping them to change it. And if you're being bitchy, for me, it's a no-go. I'm just like, no, I have no respect for you.
Yeah.
If you want to tell me something and you believe I've done something wrong, please to come and tell me. And I have that open relationship with so many people. I tell people very, very much from the start. I'm very confrontational. That doesn't mean I'm very like aggressive all the time. I can be for sure.
Things, right?
But I
well.
want to resolve things.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with me, come and tell me.
Yeah.
And with all my friends, they come and tell me. But if I hear from someone that someone says something behind my back, and I'm quite intuitive, I can always tell when something has come from someone else. And they've said it just to let you know, Shivani did this. I'm very much like, no, you're not a good person to me.
Yeah.
It just shuts me off.
It's the whole gossiping situation.
Exactly.
I pick it up very quickly, actually. If someone starts gossiping to me about someone else, I'm like, you're doing that about me, I swear. 100%. I know for a fact.
Yeah.
I do think if you're hanging out with a friend and your conversations are centred around talking about other people, you may not have, that much of a common ground with that friend because clearly conversation is lacking. You have to then be nasty about other people. And that's not a good vibe. You want to be bouncing off each other, lifting each other up, talking about interesting things. And I learnt that as well, through my 20s. And yeah, maybe I'll learn a bit more in my 30s, you never know. But
I think it's all habit. If I'm constantly talking to you about everyone being negative, that's just proving to me that you and I are both insecure because we're just trying to make ourselves feel better. If I'm talking to you about all these positive things, it just shows that we're like high vibe. Yeah. And this is all to do with like manifesting and like, being on this high vibe and like being happy for other people. And I think, there's so many influencers out there who say like, oh, Indian girls aren't supportive. I think they are. And I talked about this before as well, is if you keep saying other people aren't supportive, then what are you going to do? Not be supportive. And then guess what? People aren't going to be supportive to you. So it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
If you're supportive, it will come back to you.
Yeah.
And then that way you'll be like, everyone's supporting me. And you're just creating a positive atmosphere. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing. And that's the most beautiful thing about social media. You can choose who you follow. If you don't like someone, don't follow them. It's okay. Same. Someone commented on my post the other day and they were like, why do I listen to you? Why should we listen to you exactly? I said, feel free to unfollow. And he was like, done. And I was like, great, have a good day. Like what? You don't need to listen to me. Like I'm not here to preach to anyone. I'm just genuinely sharing my opinion, having a great conversation. And if you want to listen to it, listen to it. If you don't, it's okay. Yeah. But if it helps some people, then excellent. But it's not going to help everyone.
Yeah. And you can kind of, as long as I know that the feedback I'm getting online is majority positive, and sometimes it's so lovely. Like if you're putting out things, to do with inspiring people to have their own businesses, sometimes it really hits home for people. And I get a different level of feedback and it's lovely rather than, oh, I like your outfit.
Exactly.
Like this. It's deeper.
Yes.
So if I'm getting that And then the odd negative comment is lingering somewhere, that's fine, because the good is outweighing the bad so
For
much.
sure.
And then I know, you know what, this is the right kind of thing. It might trigger a few people, which obviously I'd rather it didn't, but
What
that
can you
might
do?
happen. Yeah, but as long as, you know, it's deeper than you
Your
look nice,
clothes.
like your outfit. That's what I wanted, and that's why I'm like moving things a little bit more as well on my page, because it wasn't working for me. I was
I
just
love
getting
that.
that kind of like, what's the word?
Superficial things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're starting your own podcast, aren't you?
Yeah. So I used to have one before.
Okay.
And I have, again, started that quite a few years ago, and I'm listening to it like, who is this girl talking? Why is she so unsure of herself?
Okay.
And I wanted to just redo it.
Okay.
So it's called Girl Boss. Girl is
Amazing.
crossed out, obviously.
Lovely.
But yeah, no, I wanted to do that because I want to interview people. I feel like I was kind of being interviewed. No, actually, I want to ask some people some questions. And yeah, it's been really fun. So I've
Amazing.
got a few episodes lined up, and I'm going to be sharing them soon. And it's
Very
all
exciting.
like kind of in line with my rebrand. And I'm going to be sponsoring my own podcast. So I think, why the hell not?
I need to do that with my performance planner, and everyone keeps telling me like you don't really talk about it enough. I'm like, I need to do it.
Yeah.
So everyone buy a performance planner, okay?
But yeah, I think it's nice because then I was thinking, okay, great, because now my podcast actually fits with my brand now, whereas before it was like another little thing I was doing on the side.
Yes.
And I felt really fragmented. All these different things I had interest in, and I'm trying to connect everything now. Like with my pages, I'm like trying to focus my page, trying to focus everything in, because it is overwhelming when you're trying to do everything.
Of course.
So I want to do things well, and I think that's the hardest thing actually. I think now that I'm trying to figure out is balancing the pressures I put on myself. So I just set the bar very high.
Yes.
Because I've done the work on myself lately, and I know I'm worthy of certain things and I deserve certain things, which is great, but then end up putting a lot of pressure on myself. Like I literally want a really nice house. I want it to be clean. I want it to be lovely. I want it to be welcoming when people come over. I want to be an amazing host. I want to be a great partner. I want to be a really great daughter and look after my parents. I want to be a really fun friend, really supportive. I also want to excel in my career, and I want to do this, and I want to do these kind of products that are the best quality, and it's a lot.
I can imagine.
But I'm glad I have that in me, because I don't want to
Yes.
settle for anything. But it can be exhausting, so I set the bar very high. Even if we've got people coming over, I'm stressing out big time, and Jack's like, Nick, what's the issue? I was like, no, I want it to be great. Do you not understand? This is going to be the best Halloween party ever. Do you know what I mean? It's good, but it's kind of probably the thing I need to work on now myself, because actually it's taking the fun out of a lot of things.
Yeah. And often what's like the best, what's average for you is often the best for everyone else. So no one ever knows that. Even with a podcast, if I mess up on a few questions, I'm like, oh my God, that was awful. And everyone's like, it was great. Because everyone else's expectations are different.
Yeah.
But before we close, I always do a truth or dare.
Oh my God.
What would you like?
Okay, I'll choose truth.
What's been your proudest moment so far
Oh, what of the whole
of your whole journey?
business journey?
Yeah. Or anything, actually. Doesn't have to necessarily be business.
Probably the rebrand.
Yeah.
I know it's most recent.
Yeah.
Might be why I'm saying it, but I think it was the fact that I changed so much in one go, and I was so scared. Like I literally had palpitations before I launched it. Like it was a whole new level of nerves, and honestly, I nearly let that whole like fear, like the bubble of fear, hold me back, and I wasn't going to do it. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I won't do that bit. I won't post that bit. Maybe I won't share that, or I'll do the website later, or I'll do the podcast later. But I feel like I overcame a lot of that, and I'm proud because I was working on it throughout the stress of the wedding, which in itself was unbelievable.
I can imagine.
Like it was my own fault really, because I didn't plan enough the year before, because I was just like, demotivated with COVID and stuff. So I ended up planning like 2 big weddings in 6 months, as well as doing a whole rebrand and changing everything, as well as trying to have fun on my hen, like do all these things
and enjoy life.
Yeah, enjoy my 30th. And I, honestly, like the burnout was next level. But I did feel a bit of burnout the last month when I've been doing the rebrand. It was a different kind of burnout though. I was trying to explain it to people. I was like, oh, you okay? Like, how you doing? Say, a friend or whatever. And I was like, you know what? It's a weird one. Like, I'm actually exhausted, but I'm very happy about it. It was a weird one.
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
I was doing something I literally felt so passionate about. Like, I loved going into work and working on that website because it was looking better and better every day, and I was obsessed, and it was such a nice obsession. And I don't know if you've heard of this thing called like the flow state.
Yes. Yeah.
I was in my flow state with that. Like,
Okay.
literally, I didn't even need music on.
Yeah,
I
you're
literally
just into it.
and it was like a haze was around me because I was so focused, and I haven't felt like that in so long. So to get myself to that point, I was very proud of myself for, because I could have stayed where I was because it's comfortable, and I knew that it was kind of working well, and
because you didn't tell anyone, you could have just missed out details.
honestly,
you
I
didn't.
thought about it.
I can imagine.
I thought about just I don't know, maybe not explaining to my followers why I'm changing. I thought, maybe, do they need to know? Do I need to really put myself out there and be vulnerable like that? But really, you know, why not? Why not? Why can't I be honest? Why can't I just share the real reason why I've changed everything? Like, I wasn't connecting with it. I don't need to like gatekeep that. I don't need to say that, oh, actually it's great, but I'm just making improvements. So actually I didn't like it as it was. I'd liked it when I first started, liked it a couple of years, and it was great and it grew, but I wasn't connecting to it. And I knew I needed to change, so I made a change. If something doesn't work for you, you can make a change. That's like the best thing. And I feel like, because I've looked back at the whole journey as well, and I've noticed I changed things a lot, and I'm glad, because I then can still stay connected to it and then enjoy it as I go.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever be in a position where I'm just doing something and start resenting the business because I've lost that connection to it, or it's grown too much and I can't, you know, I don't know, I can't keep control of it anymore. Like, I actually realised now as well, when I first started, I wanted this whole, like, you know the film The Intern?
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway, and she like rides in a little bike in this office, and all these glass doors everywhere, and all these people working for her, and I was like, oh my God,
I want that.
She is goals. That was literally when I was younger, that's what I wanted. And now I'm like, you know what, I quite like the business as it is now. I like the size it is. I like the growth. I'm proud of it, and I like that I've still got control over the designs and things like that. Whereas if I kind of let it scale so much, I'd lose so much of it. And I kind of realised, actually, I don't need it to be huge.
Yes.
Not everything needs to be massive. Not everything needs to be so overwhelmingly, like, your goals don't need to be miles away. Like, your goals can be achievable. And I'm glad I figured that out. And then with the rebrand, I actually set quite an achievable goal. Even like, I was like, we were scheduled to launch it the beginning of October. I was like, not ready yet. I'm just going to do it 20 days later.
Yeah.
Launched it 20 days later, and it's fine. Like, I'm just trying not to put too much pressure on myself.
And not everyone has to be like, have the craziest goals and have the craziest expectations of themselves.
Honestly.
And I think that's such a pressure.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful that you came on. I love talking to you.
Thank you so much.
And I'm really excited to see where Nikita goes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening or watching, if you could press the like, follow and subscribe button, it would mean the world to me.